Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing my October 2021 wrap up. I actually vlogged for the entire of October, so if you want to see what I got up to throughout October, there are vlogs on my channel. There are all the previous videos before this one, apart from obviously my November TBR. I didn't upload anything else in October, which kind of ruined my plans, but you know what? The vlogs were fun, and yeah, if you want to check them out, they're all on my channel. I obviously was doing the trick-or-treat-a-thon, which was hosted by me and my friends, so a lot of the books were covered by prompts in that, but I've spoken about that to death in the vlogs and stuff, so I'm not going to go into like the prompts and stuff again. Basically, I completed 6 out of the 9 prompts for our readathon, but I actually read 11 books. So yeah, it was a good reading month, and I'm just going to jump straight into things. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please subscribe, and let's get started talking about the first book. The first novel I'm going to talk about is The Sword of Light by Caroline Logan, and this is book 3 in the 4 Treasures series, so obviously I don't really want to give many spoilers for previous books, so it's hard to talk about book 3, but I will say that I absolutely love this book just as much as the other two. I gave it 5 stars, and I think I gave book 1 4 stars, but book 2 and 3 are both being 5 stars, and I just absolutely love everything about these series. It is Scottish inspired, so it has a lot of different Scottish mythological and folklore creatures. It has an amazing found family dynamic, like the character relationships have grown so much by the end of book 3, and with every book there are so many twists and turns with the way the characters interact, but throughout the whole series they just love each other so much and they're always looking out for each other. And there's romantic relationships that sort of get together and sort of break up, and it's very slow burn, a few of them, and there's a little bit of a love triangle at one point as well, which I was a fan of, and I just think everything is executed so well. And the main plot of book 3, without giving any spoilers, is that they're after the 4 treasures, which is the name of the series, because these 4 treasures in the right hands will save the world and in the wrong hands will destroy the world. So our main characters want to obviously save the world and they're on this mission, so they're all split up into little individual groups, and the characters that were chosen to be in each group were chosen so deliberately, and it really highlights a lot of their personality and their skill sets and really makes them all stand out as individuals. And I just absolutely love watching these characters grow and love each other even more and have their little issues, but still at the end of the day come together to do good, and I just absolutely love it. And this new book as well, obviously we explore even more new settings and places, and there's new characters introduced, including a pirate slash princess, and there's some twists, there's some villains, there's everything you could possibly want in a fantasy series is in this book and the series as a whole. So yeah, highly recommend it. This is my 4th time trying to film this clip because I keep going into like spoiler territory and I don't want to do that. But I do want to make a video eventually talking about the series as a whole and why you should read it with more coherent thoughts. Yeah, that was a little overview, and I just absolutely love this series, and I wish that you would check it out if it sounds interesting to you. I should say as well, I don't know if I mentioned, it is a YA series, but it is the sort of YA where it's not childish. It's also not aimed towards adult readers. It's like the perfect YA kind of category, because you know how like a lot of YA is written for adult readers and a lot of YA can read more like middle grade. This is like directly perfectly in the middle, like everyone can enjoy this, and yeah, I just highly recommend it. Next I read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and this is a dystopian classic, and for a moment of time it was, in like a very brief moment of time, it was my favourite dystopian classic, but it has now been outdone, which we'll talk about later in the video. But yeah, this is your kind of classic dystopian where you're in this world that is very controlled by the government. Everyone is extremely happy all of the time because they are all on this drug that is kind of like ecstasy, I guess, but like not really. I don't know. Everyone's just like this constant state of bliss. They have no issues. Like everyone can just have sex with anyone they want and stuff like that. Like it's very much like everyone's just happy, no complaints at all. And when you're reading this, you think, would this really be a bad place to live? But the author really hammers in the ideas of, you know, freedom and happiness and desire, and can you truly be happy if you're never sad? And is a constant state of happiness something that should truly be aimed for? Because on our own it is not possible, but if we were all on these drugs, it could be. But then is that actually a good thing? And it really explores a lot of these moral questions, and I thought it was really well done and very well executed. There were so many other themes that, you know, are probably way above my head, but the main themes that really just stood out to me was the kind of freedom of expression and the freedom to feel sad and the freedom to feel negative emotions. because if we never feel these negative emotions, are we truly ever feeling positive emotions? Because the positive emotions are then just the baseline. And I thought this was just such an interesting concept that really stood out to me, and I really enjoyed the way that he explored it. And then he also explores, you know, technology and the dangers of technology, which is a pretty common trope, I would say, in dystopians. And I think that he explored it well without it being kind of feeling outdated. That's the thing. I would say that a lot of the ideas in this feel outdated at all. I think that a lot of them feel very modern and relevant today. You know, the desire for constant happiness is something that we are very obsessed with, I would say, in today's society, and always have been, probably, because we just want to surround ourselves with nice things, nice people, positive thoughts, and like all of that is great, and I love all that stuff, obviously, but you do need the bad times as well, and that's what makes this full human experience, is that we can explore this full realm of emotion and expression, and, you know, we are allowed to feel the way that we feel. And for someone to then come in and tell us we're not allowed to feel that way and we have to feel happy takes away our own personal expression and our own freedom. So a lot of interesting ideas, and I really loved it, and I would highly recommend it. I would say that I listened to an audiobook, and there was some points where if I'd read it physically, I probably would have got a little bit bored, and like some sections were just a little bit dry, but with the audiobook that was fine. Like, I didn't ever feel bored listening to the audiobook, whereas I know that if I was reading it physically, I probably would have. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend the audiobook. I think it's free on the Kindle, not the Kindle, like Audible Plus or Audible Unlimited, whatever it's called. So yeah, really enjoyed it and would highly recommend. Then I read another classic dystopian, and that was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Obviously this one isn't as old as Brave New World, but I just absolutely love it, and it's my new favourite classic dystopian. This one is very unique because our main character remembers the world before it became this dystopian state, which was so unique and something that I actually haven't read before, which is surprising. Like, once I read it, I was like, why haven't more books done this? And it just makes so much more sense. So our main character is like battling against the conditioning that the government is trying to put her in, and at times she really falls under its like spell, and she really is part of the conditioning, and then she starts to think for herself and think about like her life before, and she reflects on her daughter and her husband and what happened to them and stuff, and she thinks about how she wants to break free, but she also can, and it's just like this balance of remembering what life was like before and then battling against this super intense conditioning of like what you're being told you have to do now. And I just loved like that element of this story, like, because I hadn't read it before, and it was just really unique, so it stood out for me. I also loved the world building, and I loved the flashbacks too, kind of the changeover between the like pre-dystopian and post-dystopian world that she was living in, like the switch, the changeover that happened where the government was overthrown and it all kind of happened. I don't want to go into details because I think you should read it for yourself. It was so scary because I actually think that it could be realistic. Like, it does seem far-fetched, and it does seem, you know, like, oh, this could never happen. But the way it was described, something about it just like made me genuinely scared, because I was like, this isn't too far out of the realm of possibility of things that happen, especially when you look at, for example, Afghanistan and like how the Taliban just like took over again like straight away. When you think about things like that, it really puts it into perspective. Like, our world isn't as safe as you think it is, and like things can change so quickly, and the average everyday person can't really do anything about it. Like, if the entire government gets slaughtered and people take over, like, what can we really do? And I don't know, I just loved it. I thought it was so well done, and I definitely want to read the sequel. I think I'm going to try and read it in November. It's not on my official November TBR, but it's like in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want to read it. So yeah, highly recommend this. I thought it was great, and yeah, loved it. Next, I read another dystopian, and this is a YA book called Shatter by Tahara Mafi. You've probably heard of it. It's very popular, and I did not actually know this was a dystopian when I went into it. I thought it was just about this girl who has a power where if people touch her, they die. And then it was this romance with this boy. I didn't know it was like an actual dystopian, so that was interesting. But yeah, it's got all your classic dystopian, you know, setup. It's very Hunger Games-ish, and it's descriptions of the world and the government and stuff. And our character is in this facility where, you know, she's been locked away for everyone else's safety and her own safety. And then one day this boy comes in and it turns out that he can touch her, and then they kind of are going to overthrow the government, basically. I think it's like a 7-book series, and I do think I would continue on, but I don't know like if I actually will. You know what I mean? Like I would, but I don't know if I'll actually make time for it. I'm not going to pay money for these, I'll tell you that. But yeah, so I actually did really like the story. I thought it was really fun, and the book was really fast to read. I flew through it, and the characters were memorable. However, the writing style, the prose was not good. It was very weird. There was a lot of weird similes and metaphors and stuff, and I wrote some down. I'll read them out in a second. But yeah, the writing was just cringe, to be honest, and there was like a lack of commas. There was some weird choices. I actually did really like you would have like the character's thoughts, and then it would be crossed out, and then it would be like something else, like what she actually said. And I liked that aspect. I thought that bit was cool. But a lot of the other editing choices were just weird to me. But yeah, I'm going to read some of my favourite lines. So the first one is, he's wrong, he's so wrong, he's more wrong than an upside down rainbow. No commas there, by the way. Second one is, I'm sitting all alone in a velvet chair in a blue room wearing a dress made of olives. Okay. A lot of colours there, and a dress made of olives. Obviously meaning just like an olive coloured dress, but like, actually, you know what I mean? Like the prose is weird. Like it's just like the phrasing of like things like that. Instead of saying like an olive dress or an olive coloured dress or whatever, a dress made of olives. Like it's just an interesting choice. And then the last one is, I'm an old creaky staircase when I wake up. And it's like, you do know what she means by that. Like you get it, but it's just interesting. You know, it's unique. So yeah, I didn't hate Shatter Me. I actually gave it 4 stars, but the writing was just Next, I read Junkie by William S. Burroughs, and this is an account of his real-life experience being addicted to heroin and selling heroin and the things that he did to get heroin, and I was actually really looking forward to this. I was so excited. I thought it was going to be so good, and it was just not. I honestly think it was kind of boring, and it shouldn't be boring because there was a lot of crazy stories in it, but it just wasn't that interesting. The way I described it in my Goodreads review was that it's like when you're having a conversation with someone and they think that every story they tell is interesting purely because it involves alcohol or drugs or being drunk or being high, and you're sitting and you're thinking to yourself, like, does your personality only consist of these things? Like, do you not have anything else going for you? And I guess in a way that when you're truly a heroin addict, it does take over your entire life and it is the only thing on your mind. So it's like, what else should you really expect? But I don't know, I just thought it was boring after a point. Like, there was just, I don't know, it got to a stage where I was like, okay, I don't care anymore. And none of the people in this book are good people at all. They rob, they steal, they kill, they do all sorts in the pursuit of drugs, which again is realistic because a true, heroin addict would be doing these things. And the book is, I believe, a really raw, honest description and depiction of heroin addiction and addiction in general, but it just wasn't like that fun to read at all, which again is like kind of the point. Like, heroin isn't fun. So I don't know, all my like complaints I feel like are kind of like the point, but as a reader it just like wasn't interesting after a certain point, and I don't really want to repeat myself anymore, so I'll just leave it at that. So our penultimate book is Other Voices, Other Rooms by Truman Capote. And this was his first ever novel, I believe, and it is a modern classic, modern-ish classic, and it is a southern gothic type style. So it has a lot of like gothic elements, but it's set in the deep south, and I think it's meant to be a little bit of a mystery as well. There's 2 mysteries that the plot kind of surrounds. So first of all, it's about this boy who lives with his mother, but then his mother dies, so he goes to this old house where his father is meant to be, and he lives with his father's kind of weird relatives. And the 2 main mysteries are what is wrong with his father and who is this woman that he sees in the window, and like, is she a ghost? Like, who is she? And both answers are so unfulfilling. Like, when he arrives, his father's family, which I guess is also his family, are like, oh, he's ill, you can't see him right now, and they really build up as if like something shocking is going to happen, and it just turns out like he is ill. Like, he's more ill than you'd probably expect, but he is just ill. And then the woman in the window, I don't want to spoil it, but like, you know who it is straight away. Like, you know what it is. It's not like, there's no mystery to it basically, and it also is never really properly revealed. Like, it's more just like hinted at what the answer is, but then also it's so obvious what the answer is. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was just like, it fell flat. And I think this book, I think the way I described it in my vlog was it was just pointless. Like, there was no character development, there was no real story progression, there was nothing interesting really that happened. It was just like this little story. Like, it was just like this little story without anything going for it. And like the LGBT themes as well, just like weren't that interesting either. Like, none of it was interesting. It was just a boring book, and I hate saying that, but yeah, it's kind of all just left my brain because I didn't care about it at all. I will say though that Truman Caput's writing was beautiful at times. Like, some of his descriptions and stuff was really poetic, and he is definitely like skilled and talented, and I will read something else by him in the future, I'm sure, but this book, just like the story, there was nothing to it. And finally, on a positive note, I read My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and this is one of my new favourite books of the year. It's definitely my top 3. I don't know what my order is of my top 3 yet, but it's definitely in my top 3. And this is about a girl who, when she was 15, entered a relationship with her English teacher, and then I think it's like 12 years later or something, it comes out that he has had many inappropriate relationships with students, and it's become like this big news story, and she's reflecting back on her relationship and thinking like, was I abused? Because people are telling her that she was abused, but she doesn't feel abused, and in fact she's actually kept in contact with him for all these years, and she thinks that it was love, and he's told her that it was love, and it's her kind of coming to terms with all these different feelings and emotions, and how this relationship with her teacher at such a young age affected her entire life. And I just loved everything about it. I loved the way it was written. You went like from one chapter in the present day to one chapter in the past, and like back and forth, and I thought it was so good. Like, both sides, like the present day and the past, were both excellent. Like, the storylines that were happening in each of them, I was obsessed with. I loved it. I loved Vanessa as a character. I know a lot of people in reviews were saying they didn't like her. I loved her. My heart was pouring out for her. Like, I was actually heartbroken at times, and you know, I could see myself in her in a lot of ways. Obviously, I don't have a story like hers, but just the way that she thought about different things and the way that she processed trauma and things that happened to her, I could really feel myself in her, and I just absolutely loved her. And I also really loved the characterization of the teacher, because he is so sleazy, but in a way that is also charming, and he's described as not being physically attractive, which I think it would be really easy to describe him as physically attractive, but the reason that he manages to get to her is because she is lonely, and he really preys on that, and he preys on her having no friends, being away from her family because it's a boarding school, and making her feel special and seen. And she isn't even like physically attracted to him at the time, but like his intelligence and emotional maturity, like I should say these in air quotes, are like how he draws her in, and I just loved everything about like the way it was written. I think it was done so perfectly. The prose, I loved. Everything about My Dark Vanessa was just perfect, like 5-star. Obviously, it's about a very serious topic, and some of the descriptions and stuff are very graphic, so I would definitely say like it's 1 to 2. Being aware of what it is, like if it seems like it's going to be too much for you, I would say it probably will be, because a lot of it is really graphic and descriptive, but I just loved it. I thought it was amazing, and yeah, I think Kate Elizabeth Russell is one to watch. Like, this was an outstanding debut novel, and I cannot wait to see what she does next. So those were all of the books that I read in October. Maybe I might cut some out in editing, because a few of them I didn't really say that much, and I feel this is kind of long, but I guess we'll wait and see. So if I cut any out, I think I already know which ones I'm going to cut out, but I'll put them on the screen here. But these were ones that basically I didn't have much to say about. But anyway, yeah. I hope you had a good reading month. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please subscribe for all of my future content, and I will see you in my next video.